Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Duke It Out Wrestling Podcast, where I, Duke, talk about events from the past, present, or future in the world of professional wrestling. Now, if you haven't seen my previous video, which is the first video that I've made in almost a year and a half, it was definitely the most vulnerable video that I've ever made, and it's definitely the only video on this channel where it's mainly talking about just myself and what I've been dealing with rather than wrestling events. So if you haven't watched that video and you're interested in hearing about where I've been, you can watch that video. But if you don't give a shit and just want to hear about wrestling stuff, then you're on the right video, because today for this podcast, I'm going to be explaining my predictions for the newest WWE Premium Live event, Elimination Chamber. Now, my anticipation for this show is not as high as I would have hoped as opposed to last year's Elimination Chamber, because the Elimination Chamber event from last year in Toronto is honestly one of the best WWE events that they've put out in the past 10 years. All the matches were super freaking awesome, and of course it ended with the iconic John Cena heel turn. While the heel run is debatable on whether if that was great or not, the moment itself at Elimination Chamber was freaking incredible, and I don't think many people can deny that. But going back to this event, I'm still obviously going to watch it. I'm excited for a couple of matches, but I'm definitely not as excited for the Chamber matches as I should be for a road to WrestleMania season. I think with what they've got going for the title matches for WrestleMania, with some injury circumstances that have went down, it may not seem as hype worthy as it was even for last year's WrestleMania, but sometimes the booking doesn't always determine if a WrestleMania is going to be good or not. I mean, we all remember the booking of WrestleMania 31 and how many wrestling fans, including myself, were fearing that the show was going to be horrendous, and it ended up being one of the best WrestleManias of all time. So it's not like there isn't any hope right now, but I wish I did have a bit more excitement. But the ring quality themselves for these matches are sure going to be incredible. So I'm going to dive through all 4 matches from the Premium Live event, but what I first wanted to get into was the box. Okay, yes, the famous, what's in the box? Yeah, we're all 7 fans here. But anyway, yes, a few weeks ago on Raw, they brought in this big, gigantic box in a backstage segment, and it said, deliver to WWE and don't open until February 28th, 2026, which will be the date of Elimination Chamber. And a lot of people have been speculating online as to what this could be. Could this be a return of a wrestler? Could this be the return of a certain character for a wrestler? Or is it just going to be some shameless ad for WrestleMania? Or is it going to be a celebrity host announcement? Maybe Cardi B pops out of the box. Who the fuck knows at this point? But the most popular discussion when it comes to who's in the box is many fans wondering if it's going to be Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho returning to WWE has been a topic for more than 6 months at this point. Ever since he left AEW in April, not left the company, but at least stopped appearing on television. A lot of people were speculating that if he was going to sign back to WWE, because Chris Jericho had been praising TNA shows and has said on podcasts or interviews that he might be interested in going back to WWE. So a lot of people have been wondering ever since then, is he going to come back? And most people were expecting, if he was going to come back, he was going to return at the Royal Rumble. And obviously, since we are past the Royal Rumble, we know that Chris Jericho did not appear at the Royal Rumble. But there was more discussions there's a lot more predictions on Jericho not returning by the time the Rumble was happening, because Jericho also had a Fozzy tour throughout this entire month. And so a lot of people are maybe thinking, oh, well, maybe since it's the end of the month, there's less Fozzy tours happening. There's less dates happening. So maybe he could have time to make this one appearance there and then build up to a match at WrestleMania. And I really don't freaking know if it's going to be Chris Jericho or not. It pretty much depends on the day or the week. There's some times where I'm like, oh yeah, Chris Jericho is definitely going to be returning a Chamber. Or there's some occasions where I'm like, nah, it's going to be something else. So Other possibilities of what it could be, like I mentioned, maybe I could easily see them just announcing that it's a host for WrestleMania and a celebrity pops out of the box. Do I say that it's an amazing thing to do? No. And do I think fans are going to react positively to that? Probably not. So what other options are there? One of my favorite theories that I've seen in some comment sections on Instagram or TikTok, whatever social media around, was that some people were thinking that Inside the Box could be the Demon Finn Balor. Since Finn Balor has his world title match against CM Punk at this show, we have not seen the Demon Finn Balor make an appearance since his loss to Edge at WrestleMania 39 inside Hell in a Cell. So that would be pretty cool, but I don't know if that would necessarily be the right decision since I'll spoil this prediction now, it's seeming pretty highly unlikely that Finn Balor is not going to be world champion by the end of Elimination Chamber. So having this build up to this box just being a character to lose, I don't know if that would necessarily be a good thing. So not that I wouldn't be happy to see the Demon Finn Balor make an appearance because I always love seeing the Demon gear, but I'm not necessarily sure if it's the right decision, and I also don't really think it is going to be the decision that they end up going with. I do think it is going to, and also another big theory that has been talked about is that a lot of people were wondering if Inside the Box is going to be Seth Rollins, because a lot of people were wondering if he would be able to return in time for WrestleMania season from his shoulder injury, but this injury curse with the Vision has been leading to a lot of unpredictability on any of their futures for WrestleMania 42, because Seth got injured at Crown Jewel, Braun Breaker suffered a hernia, and then this past week on Raw, Bronson Reed suffered an arm. I'm trying to remember if it was a bicep or tricep injury, but regardless, it was an arm injury, and he will be out for what is believed for 4 to 6 months, which is such an awful occasion. But it could be Rollins, but the question is if that is leading up to Rollins coming back with all of these members of the Vision being injured, what is it really going to build to for Rollins in WrestleMania? As long as Braun Breaker is cleared to come back for WrestleMania, I wouldn't really know what else is there, because we've seen Seth Rollins and Logan Paul at WrestleMania already, so that wouldn't be as much of an intriguing storyline to continue Seth Rollins and the Vision. So I am leaning toward that it's going to be Chris Jericho. I am not really positive on it. I'm not really making this prediction with myself saying, oh yeah, I would bet money on this. It's going to be Chris Jericho. There's not a doubt in my mind. It's Chris Jericho. Y2J's come back to WWE. Fuck yeah. I'm thinking that it's the most likely outcome for this whole mystery box storyline. And it does track into other returning storylines for Chris Jericho with the countdown to the new millennium, with him debuting in WWE, and the whole end of the world is here stuff when he made his return in 2012. So I'm thinking that is the closest that it's going to get. And to be quite honest with you, this is just the last real prediction of Jericho coming back to WWE. And I'm more so thinking, like, if Jericho is not coming back at the Elimination Chamber, then I don't see him coming back to the WWE at all, unless it's for something like a Hall of Fame induction. Because I'm trying to really, because I've been like having the mindset since late last year that, okay, got to get used to Jericho not being in AEW anymore and going back to WWE. But then we've just been waiting, and Jericho has not made an appearance in neither AEW or WWE. So we'll see what really happens at the Elimination Chamber. And finally, just to figure out what this box is, if it's actually going to be a cool return moment for Chris Jericho, or if it's going to be the Gobbledygooker 2 Electric Boogaloo. We'll freaking see. All right, but the first match that I wanted to get into, and especially because I already kind of gave a bit of my prediction already talking about the mystery box, is CM Punk versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. I am excited for this match. Their match on Raw was incredible, so I can only imagine that they're going to have just as good of a match here, not just as good of a match in Chicago, if not better. But The more disappointing outcome of this is I think that the result is a lot more predictable going in. Even though the chances were slim to none of Finn Balor winning either of those world title matches, it's not like I wouldn't want to see Finn Balor win, because I would love to see Finn Balor finally become a world champion. I was at SummerSlam 2023 when he had the world title match against Seth Rollins, and I had such hope for a brief period where he hit the coup de grace, and when Seth kicked out, I had a thought to myself, well, Finn Balor's never going to be world champion ever again, is he? And his booking over the past couple of years after that has made me continue to have that thought. But I'm glad that they're introducing him into a world title storyline, but the fact that it's a pre-WrestleMania storyline when WWE clearly already have heavy plans and marketing for Roman Reigns versus CM Punk, I'm just not seeing Finn Balor becoming a world champion. I mean, there is more slight possibilities for the unpredictability, especially with the fact of WWE having Drew McIntyre beat Cody Rhodes. That was a very unpredictable moment. It was something that Drew McIntyre's case was very similar. A lot of fans were wanting to see Drew McIntyre become world champion again, especially after he carried the pandemic, and that was his only proper world title run. We were all wanting to see it, but just never thinking he was going to get it. And when they finally did it, we were like, okay, this leads to some unpredictability for the WrestleMania season. But now it's slowly started to bite them a bit, which I'll get into later. But I was almost getting lost in thought of where I was at. But anyway, back to Punk versus Balor. But yeah, with Finn Balor's booking, it hasn't really seemed like they want to try to make him world championship material in any way. But with them doing the same, with WWE pulling the trigger on Drew McIntyre, it would be really cool to see them also pull the trigger on Finn Balor and lead to a lot of unpredictability for this WrestleMania season. And I think the unpredictability would probably be the best benefit for WWE right now, because a lot of people are thinking that the WrestleMania matches are either too bland or too repetitive, especially if they're wanting to go with Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes again. So I think this would be a big benefit for them to have the show be unpredictable, but also at the same time, would people be as intrigued for Reigns versus Balor? No. So I am going to say that Punk is going to win this match. Whether Roman Reigns gets involved or the Judgment Day even turns on Finn Balor, I think that would probably be the better outcome. So you could at least have something for Finn Balor going into WrestleMania. If Dom or JD or both of them turn on Finn during the title match, you could lead to a program with Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor for the IC title at WrestleMania, which would also tell a really cool story, because when Dominic Mysterio won the IC belt at last year's WrestleMania, the person he pinned, Finn Balor. So you could tell a great story from there. But as for the match itself, I'm sure it's going to be really good. I especially talked about this match first because I honest to God think this should open the show, even though it's probably going to be the Women's Elimination Chamber match being the opening match of the card. But I think opening it with Punk's match in his hometown of Chicago, and especially with this kind of predictable result, it would make the match even more exciting and have the crowd be just as excited as well. Now, the next match that I'm going to get into is the other non-chamber match of the show, and it is also with the wife of CM Punk, or I could have just said with CM Punk's match, that's AJ Lee's husband, because they're both on the equal level of stardom. But anyway, Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. AJ Lee's first singles match in more than 10 years. She has not had a singles match since she has come back to WWE last year. She had the tag match teaming with CM Punk against Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, and then competed in the Women's War Games match. But this is her first singles match, and I'm so excited to finally see an AJ singles match again. It has been way too long. When it comes to the build up to this match, this was a pretty easy match to build, because there has been build up with Becky and AJ ever since September to October, mainly September. But I think the booking that they've been doing over the past couple of weeks of Becky being afraid of AJ, I think it's been a bit too repetitive. Nothing really new is being added to the table. And I think they're trying to just make Becky act too much like a cowardly heel, when I think if they let Becky cut a couple of more explosive promos, there would be a lot more heat to this match than there already is. I'm really excited to see how this all goes down. I'm fairly confident that AJ is going to kill it in her first singles match since 2015, and Becky Lynch is going to do just as fantastic. And I have been a lot more back and forth with the result for this match than I would have expected. When they first started getting this storyline built up, when AJ Lee first came back, I was immediately thinking, oh, this is going to lead to AJ becoming the women's IC champion. Hell yeah. But also at the same time, I'm thinking, are they going to do this before WrestleMania? Are they going to have AJ beat Becky and finish the story before WrestleMania? Or are they going to have a screwy finish in Chicago to have a more vindicated win for AJ at WrestleMania? And I'm not too sure. So many times I've gone back and forth of, yes, AJ's going to take it in Chicago, get another big Chicago moment like she did when she returned on SmackDown. But then there's also, since she already got that big moment in Chicago last year, they're going to disappoint Chicago this time around. So I've been going back and forth. But I do think, I had written down that I was predicting it's going to be AJ Lee. But now I'm kind of wondering if I should change my mind and guess Becky Lynch. And you know what? I think I'm going to do that. I am going to actually change my mind. I'm going to change my prediction to Becky Lynch. Or maybe AJ Lee gets a win by disqualification. And in that case, Becky keeps the belt. Regardless, Becky's going to keep the belt. Something is going to happen at the show. Maybe the program with Maxine Dupree and Natty gets involved into this match, and Maxine accidentally costs AJ the match. Maybe something like that will occur. But while I was kind of really wanting to see the AJ Lee title win in Chicago, I think WWE are going to delay it a bit for WrestleMania, especially so because they need a bit more intrigue for any WrestleMania matches. And AJ getting more revenge on Becky Lynch, I think, would be the most intriguing way to do so. So I am going to say that Becky Lynch is going to retain against AJ Lee. Along with the fact that I wasn't really predicting a lot of heel winners for this show, so I figured if there's going to be any heel winner on this show, it's going to be Big Time Bex. And now, next up, we have got the Women's Elimination Chamber match. We have got Rhea Ripley against Alexa Bliss, against Asuka, against Tiffany Stratton. Then did I already say Asuka? Yep, I already said Asuka, and Kiana James. Kiana James, especially being the real dark horse for this match, especially when it comes to the main roster. Kiana James hasn't done as much storyline. She did some great work on NXT, but if for casual fans who only watch the main roster, people would mainly only know Kiana James as the manager for Julia. And I hope she does get some great moments to shine here. She definitely has the capabilities to do so. Do I think that Kiana James has a chance of winning? No, absolutely not. But I hope we get some great moments out of this. And for other competitors that I'm thinking don't stand or have less likely of a chance of winning, I am going to say Asuka, especially for the fact that they're clearly building something toward her and Kyrie breaking up. And maybe it could lead to a straight-up singles match with Io Sky at WrestleMania, because that whole feud has still been kind of building up over the past few months. But I think they're going to continue. I think they're going to continue something more with Kyrie, and maybe Kyrie herself is going to cost Asuka, which would be pretty funny. But and also with Alexa Bliss, I think there's a similar situation that I think Charlotte might turn heel and cost Alexa the match. And plenty of different times during this Alexa and Charlotte team up, I was thinking it was going to be either Charlotte or Alexa being the one to turn on one another, especially because they're both fantastic heels. But I'm thinking with Alexa being the one to go in the chamber, and Charlotte has a justified reason to be angry about that, she might cost Alexa. And I think that would also be another potential good build for WrestleMania if there's enough room for the matches on the card, which I'm sure there would be, especially for Charlotte. So that's what I think would maybe likely happen. And then there's also with Tiffany Stratton, obviously big star power, and of course she was the champion going into WrestleMania last year. But I think doing a repeat match of her and Jade at WrestleMania just does not seem intriguing. And I don't think many other fans would be intrigued by that either, mainly with the fact that we saw it at another big premium live event before in SummerSlam last year. And very similar case with fans being not as happy if the potential of Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes being the main event of WrestleMania Night 1. I feel like that'd be the similar case if they actually booked Tiffany and Jade. And I think the two real top contenders to win this match are Raquel Rodriguez and Rhea Ripley. And I've gone back and forth, and like I mentioned with the last match I talked about, I've been back and forth with my prediction. In certain weeks, I was thinking that Raquel was going to be a shoo-in to win the Chamber, and over the past few days, mainly, I've been thinking it might be Rhea Ripley, because obviously, before we went into the Royal Rumble, most wrestling fans were predicting that Jade's WrestleMania match was going to be against Bianca Belair. The story was already there. But we had seen the news that Bianca Belair had just recently gotten surgery on her finger, and that is most likely leading to Bianca Belair not being able to compete for WrestleMania. And I think WWE were probably very dependent on having that match for WrestleMania, and I honest to God can't blame them. But now that Bianca is likely not going to be able to compete at WrestleMania, we need another blockbuster opponent for Jade. And I think, and not I think, it's pretty much the obvious statement, the most blockbuster opponent for Jade Cargill in WWE's women's division right now is Rhea Ripley. But the other issue is she's also the one half of the women's tag team champions with Io Sky, and this Riho thing has been super over. So do they want to really end it that fast? And I feel like they might just have to pull the trigger and end the Rio storyline a bit earlier, just so we can get a blockbuster match with Jade and Rhea. Because the visual of those two in a singles match, that's blockbuster money right there. But I was also thinking for Raquel Rodriguez's case, she has been built up very well lately, and fans have been really starting to get behind her. And I was really thinking that we were maybe going to get Liv Morgan versus Raquel for a world title at WrestleMania, but then Liv won the Royal Rumble. She is fighting Stephanie Vaquer, and I don't think Stephanie is going to be losing the belt before WrestleMania. I think that is the locked women's world title match for WrestleMania. So when it came to Raquel, I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool if she also then fought Jade. So then both of the top female members of Judgment Day could get a world title match at WrestleMania. That would be pretty cool. And kind of still more lean into the story of whether or not Liv is going to turn on Raquel or whether or not Raquel is going to turn on Liv. But I think realistically, Rhea versus Jade is the smarter way to go for WrestleMania, and I think that's probably what they're going to end up doing. I just hope that doesn't leave Io Sky with nothing to do for WrestleMania. Like I mentioned, she could continue her storyline with Asuka and have a singles match with her, or a triple threat with her, Asuka and Kairi, or what I've seen some people predict online, and I would really love to see it, is Io facing Julia for the Women's United States title at WrestleMania. I think that would be killer and would be a top contender for the match of the entire WrestleMania weekend. But for the Women's Chamber, while part of me really does want to see Raquel win and get this big moment that she has deserved for quite a while now, I think it is going to be Rhea Ripley. And then finally, we have the men's Elimination Chamber match to determine who is going to face Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania for the undisputed WWE Championship. We have got Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, LA Knight, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and Jey Uso. And with Jey Uso obviously being picked at the last second to be in the chamber match when Bronson Reed hurt himself in the triple threat qualifier on Raw. So I can immediately say with that, Jey Uso does not stand a chance at winning this match, which is a shame because he's literally last year's Royal Rumble winner and was the World Heavyweight Champion going out of WrestleMania 41. And to say that he stands the least of chances, even compared to two NXT talents, It kind of does seem that way right now, because especially with where they've been building up to with Jay, maybe turning on Jimmy, or maybe they'd want to just keep the tag program running with him and Jimmy for a lot longer for WrestleMania. Who knows? But, and also then, like I mentioned, that the NXT talent have more of a chance than Jay. Do I still think they have a chance of qualifying to win this match? Not necessarily. Mainly not Trick Williams, especially because it'd be a heel versus heel, unless they'd want to skyrocket him into a babyface turn really quick, which wouldn't be that difficult because the whoop that trick chants are going insane in every city that they're in on TV. But I think Javon Evans winning would be such an incredible moment. They spotlighted him really well on Raw. They showcased him in the best possible way that they could have, and with many fans fearing that Javon was going to be booked to shit immediately, that triple threat on Raw was the best way to introduce Javon Evans to a casual viewer. And I would really love to see like a rookie story for WrestleMania, and Drew and Javon would put on an incredible match, but I'm thinking more with my heart with that outcome and not with my head. Do I see Drew versus Javon realistically? Not yet. Not that it's not going to happen or it couldn't happen. Not yet. I just don't think it's going to happen next month. And with LA Knight, I think LA Knight is, I think would be a really good choice to shock people, because many fans have been very irritated with LA Knight's booking as of late. And so to see him get a big moment like that in the Chamber, I think that would be the best way to shock the crowd in a positive way for the Chamber. I think the best way to shock them and have them excited would be to have LA Knight win the Chamber. Do I think it's likely? Not necessarily, but I do think it is more likely than a Trick Williams victory or a Jey Uso victory in the Chamber. But the two main top dogs in the match are the two most likely to win this match, which are not Drew McIntyre, he's the champ, Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Fans have been building up ever since Cody came back for a Randy and Cody feud, and we have been waiting patiently. We did get a match with them at, was it Night of Champions? Yeah, it was Night of Champions that we got the singles match between them in the King of the Ring finals, but we have not gotten the feud between them that we have been anxiously waiting to see. And a lot of people have been thinking that it was Randy Orton that actually made the attack on Jacob Fatu backstage, and I'm believing it the more time goes on, that it was Randy Orton, or that they're going to reveal that it was Randy Orton who attacked Jacob Fatu. And I think having Randy Orton win is the best decision, but do I think they're going to do it? No, it's probably going to be Cody. But do I think that with Cody winning, are they going to actually pull the trigger and do another Drew versus Cody singles match for WrestleMania? No, I don't think they're going to do that. Ever since Saturday night's main event, I was figuring they were going to do a multi-man match for the undisputed WWE title, especially after the match with Cody and Jacob at Saturday night's main event, where it was a fantastic brawl around the arena, and then Drew gets involved right at the end. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they're building to a triple threat with Cody, Drew, and Jacob, which I wasn't opposed to. I was thinking that would actually be really good. And while I wasn't necessarily a big fan of Cody still being a part of the title picture, even though he lost it, having a multi-man match would add more intrigue for WrestleMania, and I think would be the best way to add intrigue for this undisputed title match, and having Drew and Cody still be a part of it. I think it needs to be a fatal 4-way or even a fatal 5-way, because I think if they do have Randy Orton turn heel at the Elimination Chamber and reveal that it was him who attacked Jacob Fatu, then there's instantly a fatal 4-way with Drew, Cody, Jacob, and Randy. And the promos between all of them would be fantastic, and they would be able to find a way to make fans as excited as possible to watch that match at WrestleMania. And if they even wanted to make it a fatal 5-way, you could add Sami Zayn into the mix, because with the match that he had with Drew McIntyre at the Royal Rumble, he could still have unfinished business there and want to go after it and maybe start acting a bit more heelish and add some intrigue there. I'm really hoping that they add the best storytelling elements that they possibly can in this match, even if they go the most predictable outcome with Cody Rhodes winning, which they're probably going to do. But those were my predictions for the Elimination Chamber event. I'm still very excited to watch the show. I'm hoping it turns out way better than I ever would have expected it to be. And once the show actually happens, I will likely post a pay-per-view ranking of all the matches, probably within the next 2 days after the pay-per-view. But thank you so much for listening. I'm Duke, and I'll see you around.